What's up, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of The Game Room. Today you can expect some recap of our Rocket League season, the Overwatch season, and a special guest from the head coach of the LA Valiant, Packing10. So stay tuned.
We did it!
The Game Room is a production of Lackawanna College, serving students, graduates, and our surrounding communities since 1894. This episode is sponsored by Mountain Dew Amp Game Fuel. Learn more at gamefuel.com.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Season 1 finale of The Game Room. I'm Teddy.
I'm Rob.
And we're going to start every episode just like we always do with the patch notes.
And he did it right.
All right, and first and foremost, we want to make a huge shout out to the boys on the Lackawanna College football team to making it to the NCAA National Championship. How about it?
Oh, very proud of them.
You know, an amazing season. I'll tell you what, legendary coach Mark Duda, another legendary season, I believe 10-1 going up against Mississippi Gulf Coast. And honestly,
it was a great game.
I thought they were going to pull it out, 13-10 at half.
Heartbreaking loss,
Yeah,
but
they
it was, you know what, proud of our boys. They fought so hard and so well, and to be on the national stage like that was just awesome to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of great speeches from the coaches that we got to see. And I'll tell you what, man, Mississippi Gulf Coast even commended Duda on their defense. It was the best defense they've faced in 3 years. So,
Hell yeah.
And that's saying a lot. So
Hell yeah.
I can almost guarantee that they will come out strong again next season.
Okay.
Another 10-0, probably.
We'll be there again,
Yeah.
and we're coming for you, Mississippi.
Woo! So, all right, moving on. We wanted to recap the Rocket League and Overwatch season here at Lackawanna College. A lot of fun this season, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I mean, Rocket League, we made it to the ECAC playoffs. Unfortunately, we lost our first match against Thomas College, but it was a hell of a matchup. A lot of fun to watch.
For the first time playing in that division, good showing. All the teams in ECAC were amazing. Hard fought in all of the games we competed in.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to get to the playoffs that was a goal. Like we said from the start, like we don't necessarily want a championship right out the gate, but we just want to make a strong showing, and that's what our boys did.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, between Dom, Aaron, Keenan, and Cross, they really showed up to play. They progressed a lot throughout the season. We're going to give them a little bit of break here during the holiday, but we're going to have a nice little tournament that the ECAC is involved with in the beginning of January to get them right back in the swing of things. Let's talk about Overwatch. How about that Overwatch season? A lot of progress there, too.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going into the spring season, bringing in 3 top-tier student athletes to the team.
It's going to be a whole different game next season.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
it's we're going to come out strong, competing in TESPA now. So it's going to be a rigorous schedule. TESPA's schedule where you're playing 5 games a week.
Yeah. Now that we've added a lot more talent to the team, I think we should plan on throwing a lot more game play at them, more competition, just to keep them involved and keep them engaged. Because like I said, we're bringing in some top-tier student athletes. They're going to really round out the team. Starting in the second week of January, we're going to bring every team back in for some boot camps, get them ready for the spring seasons.
Hit it hard, getting real sweaty real fast.
Oh yeah, a lot of sweaty try-harding will be going on those 2 weeks.
It's going to stink in that room.
Yeah. We got a lot of cool things coming up. We added Fortnite and Smash Bros. To our game roster. We just had tryouts over the weekend, and we got a lot of great talent coming in. I watched a lot of Fortnite matches over the weekend. So
many building, so much building.
Yeah, so it was a lot, but it's going to be fun. So we're going to have 5 games total coming into the spring season. Continuously recruiting. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're hiring a new League of Legends coach. So it's gonna be interesting spring, I think.
I think just watching our team grow from this season or this semester to next semester, just like the industry and all other colleges, the ones that we've been interacting with, everybody's growing real fast, and it's good to see that like we're all keeping up with each other, and constantly pushing each other and receiving help and helping each other out. It's gonna be, I'm excited.
Yep.
It's gonna be so good.
Yep. So stay tuned for spring and a lot more competition and a couple more games. That's going to do it for today's patch notes. Stay tuned because we are capping off this season with an amazing special guest interview from the professional Overwatch coach from the LA Valiant, Packing10. So stay tuned. It's going to be a blast.
Getting that big guest in here.
Woo! Stay tuned.
Our stadium may not hold 100,000 people, but we still compete with other colleges all over the country.
Giant lecture halls? That's not really for me. I like the laid-back approach.
Lackawanna is close to home, with satellite centers located throughout northeastern and central PA.
Lackawanna College, helping me help you.
The choice is yours to make.
Changing how I learn.
Changing where I learn.
Changing my life.
All right, welcome back to the game room. As we said earlier, we have a very special guest today. He is the head coach of the Overwatch team of the LA Valiant, Mike Scalani. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we wanted to just talk about what you do as a professional head coach, a little bit about your journey from right down the road to Hanover, PA. So talk to us.
Yeah, so growing up, grew up right down the street in Hanover. Went to school there, graduated, went into the Marine Corps. After I got done with that, started kind of find a little bit of interest in esports and video games, and a couple years down the road doing that, and somehow you end up in LA. And the journey is it's interesting, right? Because I never thought I'd be doing it, especially with what the values and everything I had in the Marine Corps. I never even thought it was a possibility. So a lot of extra time, a lot of hard work, things like that, all the stuff everybody always tell you about. But one of the most important things, I think, is just a passion, right? So everybody I see, from high school players to collegiate to aspiring pros, there's different levels of passion, right? And it goes the same way with coaches. If you want to do it and you want to be there, you're going to get yourself there, and you don't stop, right? So with me, I think that was the difference maker was when I started. I didn't know what I was doing. To be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was I was not good enough to be a pro player.
Neither do we. So it's okay.
Yeah. So I was in the closed beta for Overwatch, and I thought I was really good. And I guess at the time I was good, but. Then once it opened up and I started seeing, oh man, these people are a lot better than I am. So, I need to find a way to be relevant. And I took over and started coaching. And first team I coached was actually Arrow from the Dallas Fuel was one of my players.
Oh, okay.
One of his assistant coaches, Ticket T, who coached Team Canada, he was one of my players.
That's awesome.
So I had a lot of young, smart guys on my team.
Sure.
So I learned a lot, they learned a lot, and then we went from there. And then from that point, I got a job offer, right? First job I got, $100 a month.
Yeah, I'm making that money.
Yeah, right. And the thing was, I'm putting in 80, 90, 100 hours a week just to try to see the team improve.
$100 a month.
For $100 a month, and the contract was a 3-month contract. $100, $200, $500, right? I hit that $500 contract, man. I'm living in it, right?
Yeah,
it was great. It was great. So, fortunately for me now, I could just support my family a lot better and things like that. But yeah, it wasn't about the money. It was about the passion. And I think that's what a lot of the problem is people need the money so bad that they lose track of what's important, right?
Sure, and what they love, yeah.
Exactly, and it's all about that passion. And like I said, if you find what you love and you do it, then you'll be successful, and you won't let anything stop you. So, like I said, it's kind of a little bit of a weird story coming from a small town in Pennsylvania to I traveled all over the world with the Marine Corps. I was in Afghanistan 2011, 2012, and I get out, come back, and I find a passion in video games, and that's what kept me sane.
Right.
After I got back.
Sure.
So it was a really symbiotic relationship that helped me out. And
That's pretty cool because, unfortunately, a lot of people in the military, they come home from service and they have some issues. So it's pretty neat that you found solace in video games, And
there seems to be some sort of common thread too, because we even have a couple of our players who left and joined either the Marines or the Army or Air Force or whatever. We had last year one of the kids who graduated. He was a Navy vet.
Sure.
There seems to be this common thread between the military and going into competitive esports.
Sure.
I don't know if it's because it's therapeutic or it's a way to kind of just focus your energy.
It's an escape. Yeah. And not only that, like we've recently had the Air Force, our local Air Force recruiting office came to us with interest, like, hey, we know the Army's doing it. We know they're using it for not only recruiting, but, training tactics now. So we have potential to get involved with our military service. So it's really cool. And touching on the passion thing, it's interesting you say that because we have a number of kids in our program. We're hoping to get 50 in the program by the end of spring and by fall of 2020. And something that we've noticed that we had to do is there's a lot of kids like Matt and a bunch of other them that are so committed and they want to be competitive that they're in there as often as they can, either studying to get the grade requirements or just in there grinding with their teammates. And unfortunately, there's other kids that just think it's cool to be in there and play video games. Sure. So we've had to create like a casual aspect and a competitive aspect. So day one, they walk in and I say, hello, competitive or casual? Because if we want to get better, just like you said, you have to commit. You have to want to be there to get better.
And the thing is, I mean, it's really similar, in I don't want to say with the casual competitive side, but in terms of team building, player wise, stuff like that for the professional teams, right? The first thing we do, and I talked about it a little bit before we got on, was like establishing the culture, right? Like for us, it's not so much like what kind of quality of players you have, because the players are all going to be great, right? So, and they're all going to be pretty dedicated. So, it comes in from day one for us when we started practicing this year after all the roster turnover we had. It was about establishing the culture, right? What do you guys want, and how are you going to get there? And if you're not given, that extra 30%, if you're not doing what you need to do, if you're not doing stuff on your own time, one prime example is today's our off day, right? So I tell them, I say, hey, listen, tomorrow's our off day. You're not required to do anything, but if you really want to be the best team this year, you're going to do stuff, right? Here's a lot, here's this, here's that. Work on this, work on micro plays, work on whatever you're going to do. The thing is, like, if you challenge that and you establish that culture from day one, then it all seems to work a lot better. And that's the thing that's so important that a lot of people don't see. Because when I started, I got a job with Valiant last year in November. And I was an assistant coach, and I was never an assistant coach in my life. I was always a head coach, and one of the big differences is from tier 3, tier 2 to Overwatch League is when you're a head coach in Overwatch League, it's a lot more. It's not just about the game. It's a lot more about personnel management, like working with your general manager, managerial decisions, stuff like that. A big, broad vision, rather than, hey, listen, like I'm the coach. Here's good macro strategy. Here's player development, so on and so forth. Run with it. So, when I started as an assistant coach, and I was really doing a lot of player development with our support players and our main team players, it was just kind of right up my alley. Hey, this is cool, whatever. Well, then when I had the opportunity to step in as the interim head coach, I'm like, I love this stuff. I love leadership. I love talking to people. I love setting these values and everything. And I was like, whoa. There's a lot more stuff going on here than I thought there was.
It's intricate.
and yeah, it is. And it's so interesting because you don't get to see that side of things.
Right.
And that's what, I've done a couple podcasts with, like I did one with Monty and a couple of other people, and, just kind of trying to get people to see a little bit more of what actually happens and how it happens. Because when you sit there and you talk about the game and, like, yes, all these players are great, the stuff behind the scenes, and not so much, like for my team, not so much me. I put the vision out there. I enable my coaches to do their job. But the work that those guys do and the hours they put in and how passionate they are. I mean, I have one guy on my staff right now. He does 4 to 5 one-on-ones with players a day, and he's in Australia. So we start practice, and it might be 2 o'clock in the morning for him, and he's waking up early to go do these one-on-ones with players and make sure that they're getting the feedback they need. And yeah, we're still 2.5 months away from the season, or 2 months away from the season, I think, right now. But it's about that passion, it's about that drive. Right? And that's why I always come back to it, because if you establish that culture of, dedication, passion, you surround yourself with good people, I mean, there's no way not to be successful, right?
Yeah. It's a journey, and that's something that we have tried to do and consistently try to build off of is just like you said, create that culture, create that community for them up there. You'll see soon we have our own little corner of the campus where no one else can come and bother us. So we have a set practice schedule throughout the week, and during regular season we have set days that we have matches. that's their required in-facility time. But just like you said, we encourage them, get in touch with your team and get in there on your off days, because the more you play together, the more you build that chemistry, and the better you will be. Watch your VODs, plan scrims, just play. Talk to each other outside of the game. Yeah. I think that all those things are important, and that building that culture in that community is what kind of puts you on that path to success.
That's exactly why we having team captains and assigning that they're the ones who have the most experience with the team right now. Sure. And it's because they're the ones who step into that leadership role, like your assistant coaches, when I can't be there. Sure. Right. Because I have another full-time job, of course, obviously, so I can't do the whole 40-hour work week coaching like I want to, or one-on-ones with the kids. Yeah. But that's where the captains then have to step in, or delegate to the really good DPS player. Who's the best on our team? Sit down with the other DPS players and show them what you can do. Yeah.
A lot of times, right? Like I think everybody thinks like the most effective way is like at least review structure and things like that, or coaches dictating to players, hey, listen, like this is what we see on the top down. This is what you should be doing. This is what we need to do, right? But at the end of the day, the most important thing you could do is enable them to talk to each other. And that's one of the big things we do. We have about 8 or 9 different types of reviews that we do with the players. And, they're all different. Some are, very heavily staff structured, and some are not at all. And I'll tell you, the most impactful results we get are the ones that we get from just having the players lead it. Hey, listen, you guys, tomorrow for our review, we're going to be looking at this. We're going to be looking at Hollywood, and we're going to be looking at, our attack. This is what we want to look at those aspects, and we'll talk about tomorrow. And you go in there and you just say, hey, listen, you're leading it. This guy right here, you're leading it. I want you to talk. Yeah. And they start that conversation with each other. And then next thing you know, they're talking about one fight on first point for 25 minutes. And you're like, hey, listen, guys, like, all right, I would love to do this, but we need to keep it going, right?
There are plenty more points and maps to discuss.
We have 45 more minutes of game to look at.
Exactly. So it's so there's a lot that goes with it. But I'll tell you what, some of the most productive conversations and the best growth you'll see is when you learn. I had to learn myself from just being hands off and saying, okay, instead of telling what I think is the right thing, how do I get them to think the same thing without me saying it? Because
it has to be their idea.
Exactly. But that's the truth.
You did it.
If you can, I don't want to say manipulate because that sounds bad, but if you can manipulate them to think
it's in a good way,
the same thing that you're thinking, and what you're thinking is right.
Yeah, and that's
how they retain.
That's something that we've talked about a lot. It's like, all right, like you have the perspective from behind them of all 6 views. You see what's going on, but that's what I say. Just give them direction and let them work it out. Make sure you keep their composure and keep it casual and keep it kosher. But like, give them the reins and let them talk to each other. Force them to communicate in a positive way.
Because it's getting them out of that like tunnel vision that they have in the match. Because they can only really see what's in front of them. Exactly. And if you can start making them more aware of what their teammates see and working together. I have always said, because when I first took the job, I don't know how many people. How do you coach video games?
I still get that. I'm like, I still get that, and I tell people, I'll be calling. I was calling us out my internet in up here, and I was like, hey, listen, like I want your best internet. I want fiber. I don't care what it takes. I want to get this here. Like I'm on a computer. Like, oh, what do you do? I coach video games. That's a job. Listen, man, I make a lot more money than you do. Like, please do not.
You almost dropped it.
It's just like a soft flex.
I was like, and it's not to be rude or anything, but it's like, listen, like. I'm not complaining about anybody else doing their job. Like, don't complain or question me about mine. Right. I love what I do. I mean, like I said, I do it for $100. I do it for $500,000. Right. I don't care. The more money you want to pay me, great.
Sure. Sure. How can you fault someone for creating a position, doing something that they love? Yeah. I mean, come on. We are by no means hurting anyone. If anything, at a collegiate level, we are putting these kids, student athletes, on a successful path to graduation, and those we're trying to build those talented individuals up to maybe go into amateurism or to throw them your way towards the Valiant, you know what I mean? So we're just trying to open more doors for them.
And just like with multiple guests that we've had on this show just this season have said that the whole collegiate program is, I mean, you're training these students to have skills and, well, athletes, students, to have skills that go beyond just the game itself. It's those leadership skills. It's those communication skills, critical thinking skills.
Well, yeah, and I mean it goes the same way, you know, for us as well, right? Sure. I think, you know, my boss, his name's also Mike, so things get a little bit confusing.
The Mikes.
Yeah. So you know, Mike and myself, when we talked about establishing that culture and everything like that last year, this year, same thing. It's, you know, it's always, we want these people to become better people first.
Yeah.
And then better players second. Like, yes, like my job, if we don't do well, I get fired.
Gotta get
right?
dubs.
That's the way it works, right? I'd be doing a disservice to myself, and same thing with my players, because they come from all over the world.
Yeah.
Right? And we have a bunch of like young guys, you know, 18 to, you know, whatever, 23, 24, typically. And, you know, if you don't give them that leadership, if you don't give them good traits, a lot of these guys aren't going to college. They're not, you know, they're not doing anything. All they knew
They come from gaming.
is gaming. That's all they know. In high school, they're not going to get the life skills that they need to move, and especially, you know, across the world. Like it's different cultures, it's different everything. So if you can't develop people as people first, then how are you going to develop players as players, right? So I think it's a lot of those very similar values there, and I think that's one of the most important things. And one of the things I was most interested about, and, you know, coming and talking to you guys about the collegiate program and stuff, because I think education comes first, no matter what. It always should. Now, there's cases when you're a player or a coach, or you have really good opportunities, but you can never let that stop you from getting that education, because at the end of the day, gaming doesn't last forever. That's true. You know, you get old like me, and then you're like, well, I'm not good anymore. Like, I need to find something else to do. So, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, it's great when you have it, but, you know, I think putting that emphasis on education first is really important, and, you know, being able to tailor that experience to every individual player and make a positive impact on their life. That's awesome. It's outstanding that you guys do that.
Yeah, and I think not only because everything has a shelf life, if you will. Even like NBA players, they can only play for so long. Pro players, they can only play for so long, and the same thing for video games. But again, like if you can make a name for yourself in any industry, you're gonna inevitably open more doors for yourself within that industry. So like pro players often
open the doors.
Yeah.
Keys open doors.
Right. So pro players become streamers or coaches or shoutcasters or just event planners, anything. They just stay within the industry. I want to jump ship real quick. We have, like I said, we have a set practice schedule, set competition schedule during the regular season. We do events in the off season, run summer camps and stuff like that. But walk us through like a typical practice for your Overwatch team.
Sure, yeah. So I can give you a lot of good examples from last year, right? Because this year I'm doing things a little bit different, close to the chest right now.
Sure.
You know,
Oh yeah. Don't want to do too many.
But you know, so
reveal your secrets to me.
so last year, right? I think a prime example is once I took over, right? We were 0-7 when I took over, and there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, people, you know, weren't passionate. I don't want to say weren't passionate, but their passion was drained, right? When you go 0-7 in anything and you lose a bunch of close games, I think we lost 5 games by 1 map in stage 1, and then, you know, like at the end of the season, right, we were 1 game away from making playoffs. So we did a really good job in that last 3 quarters of the season. But one of the biggest reasons why I think we're successful was, you know, typically it was our structure. So, you know, a typical day for the players out there, you know, they'll get their Ubers pretty early. I think it was like 10 a.m. They'll get their Ubers
Pretty early.
And Uber down to the campus. You know, we have like a nice facility and all that stuff with, you know, coaching office, player office, all that kind of stuff. And they'll go there. We do, you know, a very structured review in the mornings. You know, that would be led by Stoop, who's, you know, now my assistant head coach. Absolutely outstanding, super smart, you know, guy. He'd do a very structured review. We do that about 45 minutes or so, give him a little bit of time to warm up. And then 1 o'clock comes, you know, they get their lunch, I guess somewhere in there too, and because we get everything delivered there. So get their lunch, then we go into the first practice, and our practices would always be extremely structured. For a long time in GOATS meta and I guess that kind of whole stage 2, stage 3 thing, we were focusing really, really hard top-down communication and just saying, hey, listen, everything we knew, like, just throw it out the window. Let's go back to the basics. Like, we're a brand new team, and like, it's going to take time. So if we lose a couple games here at the beginning of the stage or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So we went in and we really pushed that mentality of break it down. We're going to lose games here early. We had Shock, and then we had games in Dallas right after. So we were traveling then too. And it was, we played Shock, and Shock was absolutely outstanding. And then we're playing 2 teams in Dallas, which we could have won both games, but we didn't. That was on a week's worth of actual substantive practice. So then we would have that, at scrim, very focused, hey, listen, we are working on these aspects, right? Communication, so on and so forth, here's a list of structure, here's the keywords we're using, whatever the case may be. And we focused on that. Then we'd give them a little bit of break, 15-minute break or so, and get them their lunch and or get them more food, I guess. And then we'd do another review, but that would be strictly player-led.
Right.
And I think one of the most important things, like I talked about that before, is just enabling them to talk to each other, express those ideas. But one of the reasons we were actually enabled to do that was because last year we were experimenting with the idea of we do like an unlisted stream while the game's going on, so that way we could
everyone tunes in,
do that, right? Anybody like bench players, things like that. So we were experimenting with the idea of, okay, we got a nice large TV in there. Well, what if we get like an HDMI splitter and we and then we have a minimized window over there, and we could pull up the VOD at the end of the maps, pull up the VOD and go, hey, listen, like, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's take 2 minutes. Let's talk about this. This is what's going wrong, whatever. And so, we were able to do that from the coaching office from across the campus, and we wouldn't have to keep going back and forth.
Nice.
And we would do that. We'd give them very structured review during the match, or some matches during the games. So we would do that, and then we would do that. Enabled us to have enough time to do the player reviews. So they do the player review, and then you have another scrim like 4 to 6, same kind of stuff. And then afterwards, we would typically give them 10-minute break, and then do another hour or so review. At the end of the day, after that, they go home. They'd have required rank time or stream time, whatever they need to do. And that's that was the day, and you do that 6 days a week, or kind of break it up, whatever you could do. But that's kind of what we started with, and we tried to make it as structured as possible. But there were times they'd get we'd give the players homework, or we'd do different types of reviews, and all kinds of stuff, just to whatever you could do to challenge that learning process and keep them
in the loop,
growing,
yeah.
right? Because being stagnant is, it's number one, the worst thing that could possibly happen. But number two, it's extremely easy to happen when you go, okay, guys, we're going to be at the facility for 8 hours today, and we're going to do this and this and this and this. And we're going to do the same thing every single day. If you don't do it, it's not going to, if you do that, it's not going to work. And sometimes what we'd really like to do was we do these things that I call player development blocks. Instead of sitting down and doing like one-on-ones or a review or something like that, we do something else. Maybe it'd be going out to lunch. Maybe it'd be breaking down into groups and talking about specific things, or talk about personal life. Or we watched at the beginning of stage 2 last year, we watched The Replacements. Like, hey, listen, like, this is us right now, guys. We got the kicked out of us. Like, we're beat down. Like, we need to we need to band together. I'll tell you what, we watched that movie, and at the end of it, like, you don't, like, you sit there in esports, you're like, what is that going to do? You let the players see that, you let them think about it, and you have a broad conversation about it, and then they go, oh man, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense. Like, and you just get that passion back little by little, and you do what you can, and you try to enable them, and that's the best you could do, right?
Bring out your inner Keanu.
The golden god.
Yeah.
No, wait, that's wrong guy. Wrong guy.
So, yeah, that's awesome. And that's, when we first started, like Rob said, we didn't really know too much. I had been a fan of video games for a long time, but I had never been in a position of coaching or directing multiple games, So we have just been remolding the structure as we go along. We figure out what works, we find out what doesn't work, and then we change it, and we just keep the ball rolling, We've had to make some changes to recruiting. We're trying to bring in more talent, and we're just going to go from there.
That being said, we had kind of some of the same values that it sounds like that you had. It was focusing on developing those relationships between the players.
Yeah.
And there's multiple times in which we've sat down, and I felt some of the most productive meetings where afterwards we sat down. And I remember specifically at the end of last year, there was a time where there was discord amongst the team.
Sure.
And we sat them down, And I said, we're going to go through and we're going to roast every single person, right? But then after we tell them, all right, this is a problem we see with you, here's something we really like about you.
Sure.
And we went down the line. And I mean, by the end of it, people were like, do me, right? Because they wanted to hear what can they fix about themselves, right? And what was hurting the team. And I know, like Matt West, one of our players, he was one that was roasted kind of hard. Yeah. And I've seen vast improvement in not only just him as a person, but him as a player as well. And I've seen that with multiple kids on our team. And it's that developing them as a person, focusing on not just the gameplay aspect, but their personal lives, their relationships with their teammates. That's good. It makes me feel good to hear you say some of these things.
Constant growth, man.
I mean, that's what it is, right? One of the things I always tell my coaches, right? Positive incremental growth. That's what it's always about. Mm-hmm. Every single day. If we get 1% better every single day, every single person on the roster, every staff member, 1% better every day, we're going to be in a good place at the end of the year. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. But to go back to what you were talking about, right? The accountability thing. Yeah. Accountability, in my opinion, is literally the most important aspect, right? Well, I guess number 2, because you have passion. If you don't have passion, you're not going to be accountable for anything. Well, yeah. But accountability, it's so important. Because if you establish a culture, but then you don't hold anybody accountable for it, or if you let people take time off or take reps off or whatever, then it's the same thing as any other sport. I can be a little bit of a hothead sometimes, because the thing is, like, I expect the best out of them every single moment of every single day, and they know that and they appreciate that, because I don't let them slack. I don't let them take off. I don't let them not be their best person, to be their best player. Yeah. And if I didn't do that, and I didn't lead by example in terms of, hey, listen, I'm going to be there. Like, I'm always going to be on early. I'm always going to do this. If I'm always available, I'm available 24 hours a day if you want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. I hold myself accountable to that. And if I make mistakes, I hold myself accountable, and I'll tell them, hey, listen, like, I made a mistake. Like, this is what this is what I'm thinking, but no, I'm wrong, right? If I don't do that, then how are they going to do that? How are they going to? And if I can't talk openly to them, and they can admit my faults, then they're not going to talk openly to each other either. Right. So when it comes down to that accountability stuff, the accountability is so important, and that's one of the biggest rules we have is, during our reviews, if it's player to player or staff to player or whatever, it's, listen, we're going to be honest with each other, and we're not going to tell you if you had a really bad day and you sucked, or if you're playing horribly for the week and you need stuff to fix, we're going to tell you, hey, listen, you are not doing well. Like, this is what's going on. We need to fix this. How do we get there? Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at it. Yeah. And the same thing with, the player-to-player reviews. We want them to talk to each other. We want them to be open. We don't want them to sugarcoat stuff, because at the end of the day, if they're not holding each other accountable, when they go on stage and they're playing in front of these people, especially this year, we go to like China, and I think in Guangzhou there's like a 50,000 person arena that is, right? It's something huge. I don't know if that's the exact number, but I mean it's huge, right? And if you can't hold yourself accountable when it's just a private space of 9-10 players and your 4 staff members, how are you going to do it on stage when you're nervous and you're sweating and all that stuff? So the accountability, it's, like I said, it's so important.
Yeah. So I mean, you heard it here, folks. Set a structure, create a culture, keep your players accountable. Those are the core values of any traditional sports team, esports, or anything. So,
and keep Mike, the passion.
We got some people outside waiting to meet you, so we're going to talk more to them. We really appreciate you coming in to do this interview. Thank you. We're going to keep the ball rolling and bring them in for a nice little discussion.
And wings out.
Yeah. All right, that is going to do it for season 1 of the Game Room. We want to make a huge shout out to everyone that came to join us and be interviewed and just sat with us and talked with us and shared all your secrets and all your information. We want to thank all the viewers that came out to watch us and support us. We want to thank Mountain Dew Amp Game Fuel for sending us some cool swag and supporting our podcast. And we're going to come back in full swing at the beginning of next semester with more interviews, more hot takes, more goofiness.
Coming in hot.
Maybe a little song and dance here and there. We'll see. And for one last time this season, from everyone here at the Game Room, I'm Teddy.
I'm Rob.
Thank you for playing.
If you like what you see at the game room, make sure to smash this like button right here. Hit the subscribe button right here, or check out one of our new videos over here. We'll see you later.